Captain Rylan Ward walked through the towering metal gates of the alien arena, trying to show no fear even though his heartbeat felt loud inside his chest. The Thalkiri guards around him were silent, their heavy armor making soft clinks with every step. They were almost twice his height, shaped like upright reptiles, with smooth black scales and bright silver eyes that watched everything without emotion. Rylan knew they were studying him closely, wondering why a human would walk into this place without a weapon. As he entered the main arena, the air changed. It felt heavy, like the atmosphere itself was thick with expectation. Tens of thousands of alien spectators filled the stands. Their low, rumbling voices mixed together into a deep echo that vibrated through the floor. None of them had ever seen a human in person before. Many expected humanity to fall quickly. Others were curious, and a few simply wanted entertainment. At the far end of the arena sat the one figure Rylan knew he must never disrespect, Queen Visara of the Thalkiri Empire. She sat on a raised platform of polished black stone that reflected the light like still water. Her posture was tall and regal, her long, armored robes flowing down the sides of her throne. A crown of shining metal rested on her head, shaped like curved blades pointing toward the sky. Her silver eyes locked onto Rylan the moment he stepped into the center of the arena. Rylan had read every report about her. She was powerful, strict, intelligent, and known for judging other species with cold precision. But now that he stood before her, he realized that reports never captured the pressure of her gaze. She did not look at him the way a ruler looks at a visitor. She looked at him the way a scientist looks at a rare experiment. A strange feeling moved through him, somewhere between fear and determination. A deep voice echoed through the arena, coming from one of the large guards near the Queen's platform. "Human representative," the voice announced. "You stand before the Thalkiri Empire. By the Queen's command, you will complete the trial of worth." Rylan already knew what the trial was. He also knew he had refused the weapons offered to him. The Thalkiri believed a species should show its strength through the blades it forged. But Rylan believed humanity's real strength was in its adaptability, not its weapons. So when the guards had asked him what kind of arm he wished to carry, he simply said, "None." That single answer had caused a ripple of confusion. Some guards had stared at him in disbelief. One had even asked if humans fought with invisible energy. Rylan had simply repeated his choice. Now, standing in the center of the arena, he could feel the weight of that decision pressing on him. A section of the arena floor opened, revealing a rising platform. On it stood the Thalkiri champion, a huge warrior with thick plated muscles, glowing chest armor, and two large curved weapons clasped in each hand. The champion's presence alone made the crowd roar with excitement. His deep growl echoed across the arena as he lifted his weapons, showing them proudly to the audience. Rylan did not move. He stood with his hands relaxed at his sides, breathing slowly, observing every detail of his opponent. The warrior's stance, the weight of his steps, the way he rotated his wrists before a strike. Everything mattered. Everything was data. Queen Visara finally stood. The entire arena fell silent in an instant, as if someone had shut off all sound. Her voice was soft yet carried effortlessly across the massive stadium. "Human," she said, "you have refused weapons. You are aware that the trial of worth is not a test of courage, but of strength and skill. Why do you choose to fight with empty hands?" Rylan lifted his chin slightly. "Your Majesty," he said, trying to keep his voice steady and respectful. "Humans have learned to survive in many different conditions. We don't always win with stronger bodies or sharper weapons. Sometimes we win because we adapt. I want to show you the strength of human skill, not human metal." The Queen did not blink. Her expression remained unreadable. The silence stretched for a long moment. Rylan felt a drop of sweat slide down the side of his neck, but he refused to look away. Finally, Visara nodded once. "Very well. Let this trial show the truth of your species." She raised her hand, and a deep horn sounded through the arena. The fight had officially begun. The Thalkiri champion charged forward with surprising speed for someone his size. His heavy feet made the ground shake, and his weapons sliced through the air with a high whistle. Ryland stepped back just in time, the force of the attack brushing past his arm. The audience roared. Ryland centered himself, keeping his breathing slow. He watched carefully, avoiding each strike by inches, studying the champion's movements. The Thalkiri fought with power and confidence, swinging his weapons in large arcs meant to cut down any lesser opponent with one blow. But Ryland didn't try to meet strength with strength. He stayed light on his feet, letting instinct and training guide his reactions. The champion snarled, irritated that the human still stood unharmed. He swung again, faster this time. Ryland ducked, rolled under the strike, and came up near the alien's side. He jabbed quickly at a small gap in the champion's armor, not to harm him, but to test how the champion reacted to pain. The warrior stumbled back, eyes wide with surprise. No outsider had ever touched him in combat. The arena quieted slightly. More eyes focused on Ryland now. Queen Vesera leaned forward in her seat, her interest clearly growing. Ryland felt the pressure of thousands of alien eyes, but he kept his focus on the opponent in front of him. He could sense the champion's frustration building. That was dangerous, but also useful. Frustration led to mistakes. The champion roared and rushed forward again, trying to crush Ryland with pure force. Ryland sidestepped the attack, grabbed the alien's wrist, and used the warrior's own momentum to pull him slightly off balance. It wasn't enough to throw him down, that would come later, but it was enough to show the Thalkiri audience something they had never seen. A human using skill against brute power. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some sounded impressed, others confused. The Thalkiri soldiers near the queen shifted slightly, unsure if they should be preparing to intervene. But the queen did not raise a hand. She watched closely, her silver eyes following every movement Ryland made. Ryland felt a flicker of confidence. Not because he knew he could win, the champion was still far stronger, but because he could feel the arena slowly changing. The crowd was beginning to see him not as prey, but as something unexpected. He took another step back, settling into a ready stance. The real fight had only just begun. The Thalkiri champion steadied himself, lifting his curved weapons again. His deep breaths came out like sharp growls, and the bright lights of the arena reflected off his dark scales. The earlier surprise on his face had turned into something more focused, more dangerous. He had expected the human to fall quickly, but now he realized this fight would not be simple. Yet instead of fear, Ryland felt a growing calm. The champion's frustration meant he was thinking less and relying more on instinct, and that gave Ryland a small but important advantage. The crowd murmured with rising interest. Many of the aliens leaned forward in their seats, their silver or gold eyes tracking Ryland's movements with curiosity. For the first time, they were not merely watching entertainment, they were studying the human. Even the soldiers near Queen Vesera seemed unsure how to react. Some gripped their long spears a little tighter. Others whispered quietly to each other. But they all kept glancing at their queen, waiting for any sign of her mood. Queen Vesera remained still, though her eyes followed Ryland with more attention than before. She was not smiling, yet there was a sharp curiosity in her gaze. She had lived long enough to see countless warriors from many species, but none of them had started a trial with empty hands and lived long enough to make an audience whisper. The champion shifted his stance, lowering his body slightly. Ryland recognized the change instantly. The Thalkiri warrior was preparing for a different kind of attack, one driven by speed instead of strength. Ryland let out a slow breath and prepared himself. The champion lunged. His right weapon slashed horizontally, while his left came in low, aiming to sweep Ryland's legs. Ryland jumped back, barely avoiding the low strike, then twisted his body to the side to dodge the second weapon. He felt the wind from the blade pass close to his ribs. Too close. He needed to stop giving ground. The champion came again, pushing forward with a flurry of strikes faster than before. The crowd roared with excitement each time his weapons cut through the air. Rylan blocked a downward blow with his forearm, letting the force slide off instead of resisting it head-on. Pain shot through his arm, but he ignored it and focused on the opening the champion had left. Before the alien could recover his stance, Rylan struck quickly. He hit the champion's inner elbow, then the side of his torso, two fast blows designed to disrupt momentum. The champion stumbled, surprised again by the precision of the hits. Rylan didn't attack further. He backed away just enough to stay safe. His goal wasn't to crush the champion. It was to show control. The audience fell quiet again. They weren't sure what they were seeing. Most species tried to overpower the champion. But humans seemed to fight differently, carefully, intelligently, using small openings instead of brute force. The champion shook off his confusion and lifted his weapons once more. His eyes narrowed. Rylan could almost feel the shift in the warrior's emotions. Frustration turning into determination. If the champion had underestimated him before, he no longer did now. Rylan moved lightly on his feet, circling slowly. He watched every muscle twitch, every shift of weight. He waited for the next opening, any mistake he could turn to his advantage. The champion growled something in his native language, a sound full of challenge. Then he charged again. But this time, his movements were unpredictable. He swung one weapon high, then suddenly switched directions and attacked from the opposite side. Rylan barely had time to react. He ducked, rolled across the ground, and sprang back up, brushing dust from his hands. The crowd shouted with excitement. Queen Vessera leaned forward a little more. Her silver eyes glowed faintly in the arena lights. She whispered something to one of her advisors. The advisor nodded quickly, though his expression showed confusion, as if he did not fully understand what she saw in the human. Rylan felt the pressure increasing. The champion was adapting too, watching him, learning his rhythm. It was only a matter of time before the alien found a way to break through his defenses. Rylan needed to do something unexpected. He waited as the champion advanced again. The alien swung downward, aiming for Rylan's shoulder. Instead of dodging sideways as he normally would, Rylan stepped forward into the champion's space. The sudden movement caught the alien off guard. Rylan grabbed the warrior's wrist with both hands, twisted sharply, and used the champion's own momentum to pull him forward. For a moment, the champion's weapon dipped, leaving his side exposed. Rylan struck once a firm blow to the alien's ribs. The champion grunted in pain and stumbled sideways. The arena erupted into shocked whispers. Many spectators had expected the human to be crushed by now. Instead, he was controlling parts of the fight. But the champion was not defeated. He straightened, letting out a fierce roar that made the air tremble. His eyes glowed with renewed determination. He tightened his grip on the weapons and moved with even more seriousness. No more testing. No more curiosity. Now he was fighting with the full pride of the Thalkiri. Rylan swallowed hard, feeling the tension rise. He knew he couldn't match the warrior's raw power. He had to rely on timing, speed, and precision. The champion charged with full force, swinging both weapons in wide, powerful arcs. Rylan dodged one, ducked another, but the third came too fast. It grazed his shoulder, sending a sharp jolt of pain through him. He stumbled, but didn't fall. The audience gasped. The first real hit. Rylan moved back quickly, rubbing his shoulder. The cut wasn't deep, but the pain made his arm feel heavier. He clenched his jaw and focused again, refusing to let the injury slow him down. The champion saw the weakness and pressed forward. But as he came in with another strike, Rylan pivoted sharply and delivered a quick kick to the alien's knee. The move surprised the champion again, forcing him to step back. Rylan didn't attack further. Instead, he breathed deeply, trying to steady his mind. He didn't need to defeat the champion with brute force. He needed to survive long enough to prove humans were worth respecting. Queen Visara rose slightly from her seat. Her expression changed not fully, but enough to show genuine interest. She watched Rylan closely, as if studying the core of his spirit. The champion prepared for another attack. Rylan steadied his stance. Thousands of alien eyes watched them both with full attention. The real test of human skill was about to begin. Rylan's breaths came fast, but he forced himself to stay calm. The arena lights felt brighter now, almost hot on his skin, and the sharp ache in his shoulder pulsed with each movement. The Thalkiri champion faced him with renewed focus. His curved weapons held tight, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. Every muscle in the alien's body was tense, as if coiled springs were waiting to explode. The crowd had gone strangely quiet. The earlier excitement had shifted into something else, something sharper. The aliens were no longer cheering for entertainment. They were watching to see how far a human could go. Queen Visara remained standing on her platform, her silver eyes fixed on Rylan. There was an intensity in her gaze now, a silent curiosity that made his skin prickle. She wasn't looking at him as prey anymore. She was looking at him as a puzzle she wanted to understand. The champion let out a deep growl and stepped forward. Rylan matched the movement by taking a small step back, keeping his balance light. He knew he couldn't take many more hits. The champion's strength was simply too great. If Rylan made one wrong move, it could end the match instantly. But the match wasn't just about hitting or dodging. It was about showing what humans were capable of. And Rylan wasn't finished yet. The champion lunged with a sudden burst of speed. Rylan pivoted sharply and barely avoided the strike, feeling the wind of the blade brush past his ear. Before he could regain his position, the champion swung the second weapon from a lower angle. Rylan jumped back again, stumbling slightly but staying upright. The crowd murmured with surprise. Even injured, the human managed to evade strikes that would have defeated most other species. The champion didn't pause. He stepped forward again, driving Rylan toward the edge of the arena. Rylan could feel the hardness of the arena wall behind him, and knew he had little space to move. He had to create an opening soon. The champion raised both weapons and struck downward in a powerful double attack. Instead of dodging sideways, Rylan dropped to one knee, letting the blade slam into the ground just above his head. Sparks burst from the impact. The audience gasped. Before the champion could pull his weapons back up, Rylan pushed off the ground and delivered a quick punch to the alien's abdomen. The blow wasn't strong enough to hurt the champion badly, but it pushed him back a small opening, just enough to escape the corner. Rylan moved away, breathing hard. His shoulder throbbed, and his legs were beginning to feel heavy. But he kept going, shifting into a careful stance again. The champion touched his abdomen where Rylan had struck him. It wasn't pain that crossed the alien's face, it was surprise. The warrior's eyes narrowed, and he stared at Rylan with a different kind of respect. For the first time, it looked like he understood that this human wasn't simply trying to win. He was fighting to show something deeper. Rylan watched the champion carefully. He could tell the alien was trying to read his movements now, just as he had read the champion earlier. This meant the fight was changing. The Thalkiri usually relied on power and speed, but this champion was beginning to adapt. The next attack came suddenly. The champion rushed forward, but instead of swinging both weapons, he aimed one directly at Rylan's chest while keeping the other low, ready to counter any dodge. Rylan slid to the side and felt the ground shake as the champion's foot landed beside him. Then something unexpected happened. The champion lifted a knee and tried to strike Rylan's torso, using a technique the Thalkiri rarely used. It was a move that belonged to human-style combat. Rylan blocked the knee with his forearm, but felt another sharp wave of pain shoot through him. The champion moved faster than before, pushing Rylan to match his pace or be overwhelmed completely. Rylan stumbled back, his feet slipping slightly on the sandy ground. He raised his hands again, trying to steady himself. His breathing was uneven now, and the world felt just a bit too bright. He could feel the eyes of the entire arena on him. He could feel the queen's gaze like a weight on his shoulders. He could feel the champion's determination closing in around him. But he also felt something else, a stubborn fire inside his chest that refused to die out. Ryland stepped forward again, refusing to let exhaustion pull him down. The champion blinked, surprised at the human's insistence on continuing the fight. Ryland made the first move this time. He feinted left, then suddenly shifted right and struck the champion's forearm. It didn't cause much damage, but it forced the alien to adjust his grip. The champion swung back immediately, but Ryland ducked and swept his leg low, hitting the alien's ankle. The move caused the champion to stagger again just for a second, but enough for the audience to shout in astonishment. Ryland backed away before the champion could retaliate. Sweat ran down his face, and his muscles trembled from the effort. His arms felt heavy, and his injured shoulder throbbed with every heartbeat. But he didn't let it show. Queen Visara's silver eyes glinted with approval. She whispered something to the advisor beside her, and this time, the advisor didn't look confused. He looked amazed. The champion snarled. But it wasn't anger anymore. It was respect. The alien slowly raised his weapons again, but his posture was different. He wasn't underestimating the human. He wasn't impatient. He was treating Ryland like a real opponent, one worthy of full concentration. Ryland breathed deeply, preparing himself. The fight had reached a new level. The champion moved with perfect control. Each step measured, each swing calculated. Ryland dodged one strike, blocked another with his forearm, and countered with a quick jab. The arena filled with the rhythm of their movements: strike, dodge, step, counter. Even the spectators had fallen silent again. It was as if the entire arena was holding its breath. Ryland felt his strength fading, but he refused to back down. He dodged another sharp strike, then stepped in close and hit the champion's elbow again. The alien flinched with surprise, but recovered quickly. Then it happened. As the champion swung with full force, Ryland stepped close, grabbed the alien's wrist, and twisted sharply. The curved weapon fell from the champion's hand and clattered across the arena floor. A weapon had been dropped. The entire arena gasped. Queen Visera slowly rose from her seat, her eyes widening. The champion stared at Ryland, shocked, and Ryland stood there. Chest rising and falling, sweat dripping from his face, but still steady, still fighting, still unarmed, still unbroken. For the first time, it became clear to everyone that this human might actually win, not through strength, but through will, technique, and heart. The moment hung in the air, heavy and electric. The fight was about to shift again, into something greater than anyone expected. The sound of the champion's weapon hitting the ground echoed across the arena like a shockwave. It bounced off the tall stone walls and rolled through the silent crowd. For a long moment, no one moved. Thousands of Thalkiri stared at the human who had managed to disarm their strongest warrior, using nothing but timing, technique, and pure determination. Ryland felt his chest rise and fall with each breath, the exhaustion heavy inside him. His shoulder pulsed with pain. His arms trembled, and sweat ran down his face. Yet his stance remained steady. He refused to show weakness. Not now. Not when he had come this far. The champion looked down at his empty hand, almost confused. No opponent had ever disarmed him before, not without a weapon of their own. Slowly, the alien's silver eyes lifted to meet Ryland's. There was no anger there anymore, no frustration. Only respect, deep and serious, like the respect a soldier gives another soldier. The audience whispered among themselves in disbelief. Many leaned forward, trying to understand what they had just witnessed. Some were impressed, others were uncertain, a few looked shaken. The Thalkiri believed in strength, but they also believed in fairness, discipline, and honor. What Rylan had done showed all three. Queen Vesera's eyes did not leave Rylan for even a moment. She stood very still, but an energy seemed to gather around her. A sharp sense of awareness. For the first time, she saw something in a human she had not seen in other species, something beyond simple courage. She saw adaptability, intelligence, and a strange but powerful balance between aggression and restraint. Rylan forced himself to breathe slowly, steadying his heartbeat. He couldn't relax. The fight was not over. The champion still held one weapon, and Rylan knew the alien would not surrender easily. This was a trial, not a friendly match. The champion bent down and picked up his fallen weapon, but instead of lifting it right away, he held it loosely by his side and took a slow breath. The crowd quieted further. They understood the meaning of this. The champion was resetting himself not out of pride or anger, but out of respect for the human standing before him. Rylan shifted slightly, adjusting his stance. His legs felt heavy, but he ignored the weakness. He had come here representing humanity. He couldn't stop now. The champion finally lifted his weapons again, but his whole posture had changed. He no longer lunged wildly or swung in frustration. His movements were measured, calm, controlled. He was fighting not to dominate but to test, to understand. Rylan recognized the change. He nodded slightly. The champion gave a short, respectful growl in return. They moved at the same time. The champion advanced with a smooth, sweeping motion, swinging one weapon in a wide arc. Rylan dodged by dropping low and rolling across the ground, coming up behind the alien. He struck once at the champion's side, then jumped back before the alien could turn. The champion responded with a quick spin, sending his remaining weapon slicing through the air. Rylan ducked, just in time, the blade passing inches above his head. He felt the rush of wind against his hair. The audience erupted into excited murmurs. They could feel the intensity rising again. The fighters were pushing each other to the limit. Rylan blocked another blow with his forearm, the force pushing him backward. Pain shot through his arm, but he kept his focus sharp. He struck back with a quick punch to the champion's chest. The alien stepped back, more surprised than hurt. The champion countered with a heavy strike that Rylan barely dodged. The blade scraped the ground, sending sparks into the air. Rylan moved to the side and hit the alien's knee, trying to weaken his stance. The champion growled in approval. He had not met many fighters who could force him to adapt this much. Rylan wiped sweat from his brow. He was tiring fast. Every breath felt heavier than the last. His movements were slower, his reactions slightly delayed. The champion noticed the fatigue. Rylan could see it in the alien's eyes. But the champion didn't rush. He moved with careful patience, giving Rylan space, as if allowing the human to show everything he still had left. Queen Vesera was watching closely. She could see the human's exhaustion. She could see the champion's respect. And she could see the message forming in the arena, a message not spoken in words, but in every movement Rylan made. Humans did not give up. Rylan stepped forward again, refusing to let his body dictate the end of the match. He delivered a fast jab to the champion's arm, then another to the alien's ribs. His strikes were weaker now, but still accurate. The champion swung back, but Rylan dodged and grabbed the alien's wrist. With the last of his strength, he twisted sharply, forcing the champion to drop his second weapon. Another weapon fell. The arena froze again. Rylan staggered back, nearly losing his balance. But he stayed standing. Barely. The champion looked at his empty hands, then at Rylan. There was no confusion this time, only admiration. Slowly, the champion lowered his head in a respectful gesture, a gesture the Thalkiri rarely offered to outsiders. The crowd gasped loudly. Some stood up. Others placed their fists against their chests, a sign of honor among their people. Queen Vesera rose fully from her seat. Her voice carried across the arena, strong and clear. Enough! The champion immediately stepped back and saluted the queen. Rylan dropped to one knee, breathing hard, trying to keep himself from collapsing completely. His vision swam slightly, but he forced himself to look up at her. Queen Visara stepped forward on her platform. Her gaze was sharp, but no longer cold. "Human," she said, her voice echoing. "You have shown strength without cruelty, skill without arrogance, restraint without fear." The arena remained silent, every alien listening to her words. "You have displayed a rare quality," she continued. "A strength that does not rely on weapons, but on will. A strength that does not destroy, but endures." Rylan bowed his head again, breathing heavily. Queen Visara raised her hand. "The trial of worth is decided. Humanity has earned our respect." The arena exploded with sound cheers, roars, and shouts of approval from thousands of Thalkiri. Rylan exhaled shakily, relief washing over him. The champion stepped forward and touched a hand to his chest, offering Rylan the highest honor of his people. Rylan, exhausted but standing, returned the gesture. In that moment, something powerful shifted between their two species, something that would change the future of both. Rylan stood in the center of the arena, breathing heavily, feeling the weight of the moment settling around him. His muscles were exhausted, his body trembling from effort, but he kept his posture straight. He had faced the Thalkiri champion with empty hands, and lived. Not only lived, he had earned their respect. The cheers of the alien crowd still echoed through the massive stone chambers. A deep, vibrating sound that felt almost unreal to him. The champion stepped back and gave Rylan space. The alien's heavy breaths formed soft clouds in the cold arena air. His silver eyes no longer showed challenge or confusion. They held a quiet admiration. Proof. For the Thalkiri, respect was never given without reason, and this human had provided more reasons than anyone expected. Queen Visara descended from her platform for the first time since the trial began. Her tall figure moved with a calm grace, her long, armored robes trailing behind her like a shadow. The arena grew silent as she approached. Every eye followed her, including Rylan's. Two Thalkiri guards moved to assist Rylan, but he shook his head and forced himself to stand without help. He would not show weakness now. Not in front of the queen, not in front of the species he had come to represent. Queen Visara stopped only a few steps away from him. Up close, she looked even more imposing. Her silver eyes were steady and sharp, but there was a softer glow in them now, something like approval. "You have done what no other species has done in this arena," she said. "You faced our champion without weapons. You fought not with rage, but with discipline. You protected yourself without needless harm." Rylan bowed slightly. "I only did what I came here to do. I wanted to show who we are." "And you have," she replied. The queen turned slightly, addressing both Rylan and the entire arena. "Let all Thalkiri witness this. Humanity stands as more than a young and unknown race. They stand as a species of will, of heart, of balance. A species that understands power, yet does not rely on destruction." The audience responded with a roar that made the air tremble. The sound was overwhelming, but Rylan felt a warm pride inside him. He had not expected their praise, but he accepted it with quiet gratitude. Queen Visara lifted her hand, and the arena fell quiet again. "It is time," she said. "The human representative will come with me." Rylan felt a flicker of surprise but nodded. He followed her as she walked toward a large doorway at the side of the arena. The champion walked behind them, acting like a silent escort. The guard stepped aside to let them pass. Many bowed as the queen approached, a rare gesture of respect among their kind. Beyond the doorway, the arena's echoing noise faded. A wide, polished hall stretched before them, lit by soft blue lights. The air was cooler and calmer here. Rylan felt his heartbeat slowing as he walked. They entered a grand chamber, lined with tall stone pillars carved with the history of the Thalkiri Empire. It felt ancient and important. At the far end stood a large circular table made of a dark, mirror-like stone. Advisors, commanders, and council members were already waiting. When they saw Rylan, their expressions shifted, some surprised, some curious, some openly respectful. Queen Vesera took her place at the center of the table. She motioned for Rylan to stand beside her. "This is the human who passed the trial of worth," she announced. Every advisor turned their full attention toward him. Rylan stood straight, trying to hide how much his body ached. He felt strangely small in this room of powerful alien leaders. Yet he also felt a quiet confidence building inside him. One advisor spoke first. "Human strength is different. Sharp, but controlled. It is not what we expected." Another nodded. "Few species show restraint during a trial. Most seek to impress with aggression." A third, older advisor leaned forward. "And yet, this human defeated the champion without killing him. This is a rare kind of victory." Queen Vesera looked at Rylan. "Tell them, why did you fight this way?" Rylan took a slow breath. He felt every eye on him, but he spoke calmly. "Humans are not the strongest in the galaxy," he said. "We don't have the hardest bodies or the fastest reflexes. We don't have natural weapons, but we do have something important. We learn fast. We adapt. And most of all, we choose how to use our strength." He paused, letting the words settle. "We can fight hard, but that doesn't mean we have to destroy everything in front of us. Real strength is knowing when to use force and when to hold back." The advisors exchanged glances, impressed. Queen Vesera nodded slowly. "This may be the first time I have heard such a philosophy from a visiting species." Rylan offered a small smile. "It's not just a philosophy." The room fell silent. For several long moments, the leaders of the Thalkiri considered his words. Finally, the queen placed her hand on the table. Her voice filled the chamber with a steady authority. "Then the decision is clear." She turned toward Rylan. "The Thalkiri Empire will form an alliance with humanity." The advisors bowed their heads in agreement. The champion placed a fist against his chest, honoring the decision. Rylan felt a rush of relief and pride. This was more than a personal victory, it was a step toward a peaceful future between their species. Everything he had fought for, every painful moment in the arena, had led to this. The queen continued. "Your actions were watched by thousands, and they will be remembered for generations. The human who fought without a weapon will become a symbol of unity, strength, and control." Rylan bowed deeply. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I'm honored." "There is more," she added. "You are invited to join our diplomatic council as humanity's first representative. Together, we will strengthen the connection between our species." Rylan's eyes widened. I accept." The queen nodded. The decision was complete. Later, as he walked through the halls with the champion at his side, Rylan felt the tension in his shoulders finally easing. The champion let out a low, rumbling sound, almost like a satisfied growl. "You fought well," the alien said in a deep, respectful voice. Rylan smiled. "You weren't easy to fight either." "That is why we respect you," the champion replied. "You fought with purpose." When they reached the arena entrance again, thousands of Thalkiri stood waiting. When they saw him, they erupted into cheers once more. Rylan stepped forward, not as a fighter now, but as a representative of humanity, one who had proved his species' worth with nothing but skill, heart, and unshakable will. In that moment, he understood something powerful. He hadn't just earned their respect. He had changed the future. And the galaxy would remember the day the alien queen and her soldiers watched a lone human fight with bare hands and realized humanity was far more than they had ever imagined.